My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. We've all experienced the awkward and rather even dangerous situation when we are traveling in the dark, maybe even walking in the dark, when maybe there's been a power failure and we try to feel our way through a room in complete darkness. Or imagine you're just like driving in the country road and we realized, how dependent we are on the headlights so that we'd see the road ahead of us or even to be seen by others. Darkness, complete darkness, is quite scary. And that is why the theme of light is so frequently present in the gospel. Jesus says he is the light of the world. And he gives us this hopeful image. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And he speaks about light, also the man who was born blind. In Matthew, he tells us about the apostles, and that they, by their life, must reflect that life, that they too are the light of the world in some way. They reflect him who is the light. But today, this theme of light in Luke, well, it appears a little bit less directly, and we want to take it to our prayer today. Today's gospel tells us what Jesus said. He said, "No one who lights a lamp conceals it with a vessel or sets it under a bed. Rather, he places it on a lampstand so that those who enter may see the light. For there is nothing hidden that will not become visible, and nothing secret that will not be known and come to light." Well, there are various strains, of meaning that we could get out of this, but we can ask the Lord Jesus, what are you telling us today with these words about light? Are you speaking to me about my responsibility to share the light that I have received? You're asking me not to conceal my faith, not to conceal that light or any of the gifts that I have received. To hide a lamp under a bed, that makes no sense. It seems rather silly to do that. And of course, the fathers of the church have spoken about this, like Origen, one of the fathers from the 4th century. I looked him up, and he sees this as a symbol, this idea of hiding the light under a bed or something. He sees it as a symbol of spiritual lethargy. And he says that the candlestick, really, he says, is the church, where Christ's word illuminates all. And I guess, well, we're in the church, and we have to do that illuminating. It's always a very moving moment in the very beginning of the Easter vigil. At Easter, when the priest blesses the paschal fire, and then he lights this large Easter candle and sings out loud. In a dark church, he sings the Lumen Christi, the light of Christ, as he holds up this massive candle with one little flame in the midst of the dark church. But then bit by bit, the flame spreads to other candles. And before you know it, this mysterious glow, has covered the entire church. Everybody is quiet. Everyone still gazes at that candle. And then they all listen to the beautiful words of the Easter proclamation. And in that proclamation, where the deacon, sings right in front of that Easter candle, he speaks about joy and the blazing light of the eternal King. It says, "Let the building shake with joy." The light of Christ dispels the darkness in our hearts and in our minds. Well, today the Lord speaks to us about this lamp, this lampstand, a place that others can see and experience this light. And maybe in a certain way, well, yes, the light is in the church, but he wants us also to be, in some way, this lampstand, this candlestick. Isn't it true that the words resonate for us as a kind of a call to responsibility today? Because the gospel can't just spread on its own mysteriously. We have to be those candlesticks. We have to be those matches, those lampstands. And we sense now, as we hear these words, like our own call to be authentic witnesses, allowing the light of Christ to shine, even, you could say, publicly, that we not keep our faith as a simple private possession. That public witness, that responsibility is not fulfilled merely by externals, or like by wearing a large cross around our neck or something, or merely by external signs. As a priest, I sometimes get very, very nice people that come up to me and they say, "Hello, Father," and then they ask me for a blessing, but they know I'm a priest because I dress as a priest, right? And, recently I was in an airport and I was, fumbling with one of those automatic check-in machines to get my ticket for my baggage. And I mean, no sooner had I approached this machine that one of the attendants just rushed to help me. She clicked the right buttons. She was smiling cheerfully. And, I got my ticket and everything, and she asked for a blessing, which of course I was happy to give. I was happy, But I thought that if I was an ordinary looking guy, with a shirt and tie or whatever, maybe I would have not have received that help, that kindness. Right? Maybe she was kind to me only because she had herself experienced other good priests, or other priests who had been good to her. And so she saw that sign, the sign of, this guy's a priest, so I'm going to be nice to him because of her experience. But isn't it true that we are not always those lampstands, that great chandelier of Christ's love that we ought to be? And it cannot just be by our external appearance. Maybe Jesus is inviting us to bring his love to others by kindness of our behavior, not by what we wear, by our words, by the light we bring to help our friends, our colleagues, to help them frame their challenges in new ways that allow the gospel seed to really take root. St. Paul saw this thing about the lamp and the light of Christ. He saw it as being an imperative command. And it was not tied to our abilities or our intelligence, our connections, or our own prowess. Jesus spoke to the apostles. As he said this, he spoke to them, he said, "You are the light of the world." But Paul felt that the Lord had invested him with the task also of proclaiming his gospel as an apostle. Not as a philosopher, not as a Pharisee, but as an apostle. And he considered himself an apostle, even if he was not actually one of the 12 that Jesus had chosen. He was not part of that limited group that Jesus had chosen, but still he felt it still applied to himself. I am an apostle, he thought. They did not have the copyright to this word. He describes them simply as apostles before him, those who came before him. And St. John Chrysostom, he says, in the same way that fire in setting light to different materials burns ever stronger, so St. Paul's words won over to his cause all those with whom he came into contact, those who were even hostile to him, captivated by his discourses. That all became, he said, the fuel of his spiritual fire. And it's true, we have to set fire to the environment. That means that people feel warmer with us. They don't see us as cold or indifferent or lacking empathy. And they see us very interested in them. People have to feel that we consider them very worthwhile talking to. To be a light starts with our good humor, our pleasant conversation, our ability to chat about challenges that souls experience. Some people are afraid to bring up serious religious questions under the guise that, these are really, personal questions, as though everybody should just stay in their own corner, in their own lane. Now, we are transmitters of this light because Christ is the light of the world. And his light has to hit others. Maybe there are little rays of light and warmth that I have not seen. There could be glimmers that we have not opened ourselves up to. And it's exciting to see that there are glitters and tiny sparks of love, of his love, present in all kinds of places, even in people with different religions. His sparks are there. But let us put it all together in the light of Christ so that it can really shine and warm. Because we live in a pretty dark world. It's even a kind of cold world. Maybe too, we can be those candelabras. If we maybe have hidden it under the bushel, let's take it out and let it shine for others to see. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you've communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.